Tuesday edition, PFT OT, Peter King, Mike Florio. The draft is 2 days away. Let's play a little quarterback matchmaker. Let's try to figure out where 5 of the biggest names at the quarterback position heading into this draft will land when it's time to start calling them out. And let's start with Joe Burrow, Peter. I'm convinced it's down to the Bengals or the Dolphins. And the only way it's not going to be the Bengals is if the Dolphins make the Bengals an offer they can't refuse, an offer they won't refuse, because who knows, maybe the Bengals won't realize they have an offer they can't refuse. But after talking to Burrow yesterday, I'd refuse all offers. I'd run to the podium or wherever you have to run this year in the virtual draft to get that name in. Do you envision any possibility of the Dolphins making any type of a move, or is it Burrow to the Bengals, period, exclamation point?
I think it's Burrow to the Bengals, Mike. I mean, human nature being what it is, will Stephen Ross, say something that he hasn't said yet, which is, Chris Greer, you've got to trade 5 ones for Joe Burrow. I just don't think that's going to happen because his head coach doesn't want to do it and the general manager doesn't want to do it. Joe Burrow's going to the Bengals.
Well, that one's easy enough, but there is, and I don't know, it's a small chance, but it would be Stephen Ross commandeering the ship and telling his coach and GM to get out of the way, which makes you wonder, why do you even have a coach and a GM if you're not going to let the people that you've entrusted these jobs to decide the future of the franchise? So I think it will be Burrow to the Bengals, and I think he's going to be very good. Now, you need to have blocking. We talked earlier in the show about how Tim Couch wasn't a bad quarterback. He just got killed in Cleveland. Hopefully they'll have protection for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. The next name I want to go to is Justin Herbert, because I'm of the mindset that he's going to get drafted before Tua Tagovailoa. Do you agree with that? And regardless, where do you think Herbert ends up?
I think Herbert ends up with the Dolphins, Mike, but I'm in the 70% range on that. I think it's going to happen. I'd put $10 in Vegas on Herbert to the Dolphins, but I wouldn't put 100. I think there's a lot of question about how good Justin Herbert will be. I mean, opening day this year, he's probably the best guy in this draft. Okay, I get it, but because he's the healthiest, he's big, strong-armed, he runs well. He's going to make plays in and out of the pocket. I get it. But you have to ask yourself, does Justin Herbert have the upside of, say, and I'm not even going to say Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. I'm going to say, does he have the upside of a very good NFL quarterback? And so that is what Miami really has had to decide. Obviously, they've made their decision by now. I think they're going to go with him, but we'll see.
And then you've got the wild card of the Lions at 3 and the Giants at 4, who could trade down with a team that would like to cut the line in front of Miami. The Chargers at 6, the Panthers at 7. Who knows if somebody springs up to get Justin Herbert, but that's a possibility as well. But I'm with you. If it all plays out with no trades and the Dolphins are using pick number 5, it's going to be Herbert instead of Tua, which brings us to Tua. We talked during PFT Live today about the possibility of Tua sliding out of the top 10. You've got him in your mock draft, going to the Patriots at 13, who would trade up with the 49ers into that spot. Where do you ultimately think Tua is going to land, and in what spot do you think he's going to get picked?
Well, I'll say New England. But again, that is contingent on 2 very important things happening. Number 1, Bill Belichick loving Tua. And number 2, Tua getting into the teens. In other words, Tua getting past Oakland at 12. Because I think if you're New England, you decide you definitely want him, you have to trade ahead of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to call them Oakland for the next 3 years. You have to trade ahead of Las Vegas at 19, and you also have to trade ahead of Jacksonville at 20. Because in my opinion, both of those teams have a chance with their second picks of the first round to take a quarterback who is at worst, Mike, a very intriguing but damaged prospect.
Yeah, the Raiders would be fascinating. And as Chris Sims says all the time, John Gruden is a quarterback whore. We've taught Sims that the should go on to the back end of the word. But, they've got Marcus Mariota. They've got Derek Carr, and that would be something if they would emerge from the draft with Tua. And here's the thing. The relationship between Nick Saban, the coach at Alabama, and Bill Belichick is such that whatever Saban truly believes about Tua, Belichick will know. Whatever Saban truly understands about Tua's health, Belichick will know. And if Belichick makes the move to get Tua, that tells us Saban has told him he's the guy, he'll be fine, don't worry about it. And if Belichick doesn't go get him, that doesn't mean Saban has said run away, but it definitely means that Saban didn't say go get him, everything's going to be perfectly fine, and this is the guy you need for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, and look, I think especially because I've heard what Nick Saban is telling NFL teams about Tua, and it is highly, highly complimentary. And, one of the other things that you have to look at, okay, you have to not only look at what your team doctors say about the health and welfare of Tua, you also have to look at Tua, the competitive person who has played with injuries in the past because he wants it so much. And again, a lot of players really want it and are not all that talented. Tua really wants it, and he's immensely talented. And so, in my opinion, I think you also have to weigh how aggressive this guy is going to be in coming back from whatever ails him. At the end, Mike, you are going to pick Tua Tagovailoa, and you are not going to know if he's going to be your quarterback for the next 10 years. That's a little bit of a worrying thought. I just think the upside is worth it.
And as to what Saban is telling teams, and look, I don't want to accuse the guy not telling the truth, but he is the guy who said, I'm not going to be the Alabama coach.
Right.
I think he's got to praise Tua. Doesn't he? I mean, The guy delivered a national championship. The guy has been a great quarterback. You want to be able to praise and hype your guys. If anybody's getting the truth, though, it's Bill Belichick. Whatever he tells Belichick when they get together and hang out,
Mike.
that's what you take to the bank.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan Love,
so look,
number 4. Go ahead.
The last thing, just one last thing about this. The last thing I think that's very, very important is that there aren't a lot of people who can do things like this in football. Bill Belichick would make a move like that, shrug his shoulders and say, think it's going to work out. If it doesn't, we're still going to win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the attitude. When you have the 6 championships, you can make that move, and you don't have to worry about getting fired if it doesn't work out because you ain't getting fired. You're going to stay in New England as long as you want to. Jordan Love, the next quarterback on the list. Where do you see him going?
Man, I'm clueless, really. If I had to guess, I'd pick in the middle of the second round to Pittsburgh. But it's just a guess, Mike. I don't have a great feel for Jordan Love. And there have to be people who have fallen in love with Love. I just don't know who they are. I asked every person over the weekend when I was doing my mock draft, where do you have Love? Where do you have Love? He's not going to the Saints. I don't think he's going to the Patriots. I asked everybody who had even some sort of need, short or long term. I couldn't find anybody. So we'll see.
Well, and this could be a situation where one of the teams that maybe would be looking at Herbert in the top 10 that doesn't get Herbert swings back into the bottom of round 1, whether it's the Chargers, whether it's the Panthers, somebody that's
I don't think you're going to have to.
Well, but you know what? You control him for 5 years. That's the one reason to do it. And you don't have to worry about that 18 hours to 21 hours between the end of round 1 and the top of round 2 where you get leapfrogged and you lose him. The quarterback position is so critical to the success of a team. And, we saw what happened in 2011 when there was no offseason because of the lockout. There was a run on quarterbacks that shouldn't have been drafted where they were. Jake Locker at 8, Blaine Gabbert at 10, Christian Ponder at 12. Once that quarterback chum is in the water, I feel like teams throw aside their draft board and they just get desperate to go out and get a quarterback who's going to reshape the franchise for the next 10 years or so, but who knows. Jalen Hurts is the last one we'll talk about, the guy who was at Alabama, got benched for Tua, ended up at Oklahoma. Where do you think he ultimately ends up and in what round?
I think he's going to get picked in the second round, and I think there are a number of teams, Mike, that are interested in him. Atlanta might be interested at 48, Baltimore at 55. I think it's going to take a progressive team that likes to do different things on offense. And what I mean by this is you don't only do, take Drew Brees out for a couple snaps and put in Taysom Hill. You also put Taysom Hill in at as a wingback or a tight end or as a wide receiver. And you have him play football. And I think you very well could see a team take Jalen Hurts and want to do the exact same thing with him. Have him be your backup quarterback, but also have him be on the field 10 or 12 snaps a game, being a weapon on offense to basically terrorize a defensive coordinator every week before you play that team. You know what? I'm going to guess Atlanta at 48. That's going to be the team to take Jalen Hurts.
Hey, I think any team that has been on the wrong side of Taysom Hill, and we saw the Falcons Thanksgiving night on the wrong side of Taysom Hill, you have to think about what you can do with that guy who can take a snap or two at quarterback from time to time, who can do all those other things, who can just create mismatches and help you gain yards and score points in unconventional ways. And when you see what the Saints have been able to do with Hill, you're going to have other coaches who want to show the world they can do the same thing, and you have to give them the right talent. Last year, the Ravens were toying with the idea of doing something like that with Trace McSorley, and who knows, maybe by 2020 they'll be at the point where he can do things like that for them. But Jalen Hurts, I like the idea of putting him in that category and putting him on a team that has seen what happens when the offense is diversified with a player who can really come in and just make you afraid of what he's going to do every time the ball is in his hands or close to it.
Yeah, and I think the one other thing to think about when you think about Jalen Hurts, look what happened to the Baltimore Ravens last year. They didn't want to play some of their guys in Week 17. Their playoff position was solid, so they benched 5 or 6 of their starters, including Lamar Jackson. This is the time to basically say, when we bench a quarterback for a game, which we may do if this guy is a little bit iffy health-wise, let's put Jalen Hurts in there. You think he's going to have any fear of facing the Pittsburgh Steelers? He's faced down the Pittsburgh Steelers of college football for a couple of years. And I'm not trying to make him cocky. I'm just saying that he's going to go in and give you a chance to win any game you play.
Yeah, I like it, and I like the conversation, and we'll have answers to all these questions between Thursday night and Friday night because some of these guys may last until round 2, so we won't know their destination until the second day of the draft. Peter, great stuff as always. We'll be back on Wednesday with more PFT Live and also more PFT OT. Check us out around the clock at ProFootballTalk.com. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.